Multiple updates for the Devils. Massive implications here. Playing later into the season just got a little bit more clear after this past weekend. Welcome in to Devils Digest. Feel free to hit subscribe. Devils have a magic number. That magic number is 8. Puts them at 95 points on the season. Look, the teams we're looking at here, all Metropolitan. New York Rangers, Columbus Blue Jackets, New York Islanders. Now, right now, the Columbus Blue Jackets are the ones that are really pushing up that number. Could finish at 95 points with a 10-game finish. Devils would take the tiebreaker with the regulation wins. Rangers, 93. Islanders, right around there as well at 92. So, looking at where these teams can fall into line, it's a little bit tough to just kind of put this into a two-man race. It's not like, Columbus loses a point here. The numbers kind of change a little bit because the Rangers can still catch them. The Islanders can still find a way to catch them. So, not really something where you're looking at a two-man race and you're like, Devils need to get 4 and the Rangers need to lose 4, because there are other ways that Columbus or New York Islanders could find a way into the playoffs. But the magic number is 8. 95 points would give the New Jersey Devils a playoff berth. Looking at the remaining games on the schedule, just 6 games left. 4 games left on this 5-game homestand. 5 of the final 6 are at home. They could wrap this up before the home game stand ends, because you look at some of the teams they're playing. New York Rangers, well, that's a team that has a factor in those 8 points. New York Islanders, that's a team that has a factor in these 8 points. So you look at where the Devils are and the type of schedule they have remaining. They have home games. They have teams in their division. There is a path to get to that 95-point mark before you wrap up this 5-game homestand. Because for the Rangers, Islanders, Columbus, these points are crucial down the stretch. I mean, they could find their way into a wild card. It's not excluding the fact that, the Rangers, Islanders, Columbus, 2 of these 3 teams could still make the playoffs in that wild card spot. An Atlantic team really couldn't catch New Jersey. These teams are kind of looking in that second wild card spot, or possibly might be a little bit harder for them to catch the Devils. But the Devils are just worried about that 3rd spot in the Metropolitan Division. That's where you're looking. That's where you get the 95 points. That gives you a playoff berth. They have the tiebreakers right now out of all the teams trying to catch them. Columbus can't do it. They have 10 games remaining, could finish at 95 points. Devils do it too. They have a tiebreaker. They have 12 extra regulation wins. Columbus could win all 10 games in regulation. Doesn't do it. So that's where you're looking at for New Jersey. You have 5 of your final 6 games at home, and 3 of them against divisional teams, 2 of them in this race still. Now, what makes it even a little bit more glamorous, because maybe the second half of the season hasn't been super glamorous. Well, this is a little nice. Devils' easiest schedule remaining. They're playing teams at a .490 win percentage. I mean, I feel like every single time I open up the app for the past 2.5 months, I check the Devils' last 10 games. It's usually 500. It's usually 5-4-1, or maybe a little bit less. I rarely see the 6 or the 7. It's been a tough second half of the season. I mean, we can't get away from that. Things might have not gone right. Things might have, been a little bit almost weird with the way the injuries have fallen into place and the type of timing with that. But at the end of the day, it's been a struggle of a second half of the season. You can't get away from that. They're playing 500 hockey teams the rest of the way. There's a clear path to do this before this homestand ends. You got to play a Boston team. Boston sold the deadline. Pittsburgh sold off some players as well. New York Islanders, 5-game losing streak, they're starting to cool off as well. I've said it before. When you're this first half of the season, first 41 games, to really give yourself a realistic shot at the playoffs, you got to get to that 20-game win mark. Because if you don't get to that 20-game win mark, the type of hockey you'd have to play down the line just really doesn't add up to make the playoffs. I've always said it. It's not about how far you are behind a team at a certain point. It's a race to a number. At the end of the season, that's what we all talk about. I mean, we have our magic number. The magic number is 95. It's a race to 95. That's what matters. So, I mean, I see a team, they have 16 wins at the 41 game mark. They got to win like 25, 26, maybe even 27, 28 to get into the playoffs. And you've already only won 16 of your first 41. It makes it really hard to get into the playoffs that way, and that's what the New York Islanders were at. They had their win streak. They had, they're getting points, it seemed like, every single night. But if you don't get to that mark, it makes it really tough down the stretch. You got to be playing close to 700 hockey down the stretch. Maybe even better. Devils right now, they just have to play 500 hockey teams right now. They don't have to do that down the stretch. They're probably, I doubt all of these teams go undefeated down the stretch. Actually, Rangers and Islanders can't even. They play each other. So, when you look at that, giving yourself the best chance to win, hit the 20 win mark by game 41, Devils did that. Put yourself in a position where you can find that magic number earlier than these other teams. Devils found that magic number. It's 95. 95 points would get New Jersey in the playoffs. Look, going back to second half of the season, hasn't been super great. But when you look at the Devils team and, the injuries and the things like that, you have to get hot at the right time. And it seems like the Devils are starting to get that a little bit, especially out of one of their key players. Here's Sheldon Keefe on Jacob Markstrom. He looks like himself, dialed in, competitive, just his battle level, tracking pucks. He looks real good. Jacob Markstrom has been real good as of late. 3-game personal win streak for Jacob Markstrom. Awesome last night. Big in that win, the first win against Minnesota. Chicago, got the saves that they needed. They scored enough to get the win in that game. But looking back to where, Jacob Markstrom and Jake Allen were maybe a month ago, maybe even, a little bit closer than that. Jake Allen was definitely playing better than Jacob Markstrom. There's a reason you go back to Jacob Markstrom. You have to let a star find his game. Coming off an injury, not playing super well, but when you look at it from a long-term perspective, outliers rarely work. It was a great story with Jake Allen. Jake Allen's played really well for the Devils. He's outplayed what we were expecting from him, what we needed from him. Jacob Markstrom is your starter. I'm not for changing, one day this guy's a starter, the next day this guy's a starter. You have a starter, you stick with him. Jacob Markstrom is your ace. Because at some point, Jake Allen's going to have a rough game. And then are we going to just turn on him like some maybe fans are turning on Jacob Markstrom? I don't see how that makes much sense. You let Jacob Markstrom find his game. He's found his game. He's been hot as of late. That's what the Devils need. When you're not super healthy, you got to get hot at the right time. Jacob Markstrom's answered the bell. Nico Hischier, maybe the stats don't show it. This might be his most impressive season ever. hit a career high in goals, has been a key factor since Jack Hughes has gone down, has had to embrace that number one center role with maybe not the same type of depth as some other top centers in the league have behind him. Timo Meier, turn the clocks back. Meier goes up. March is Meier's month. Jesper Bratt has continued to be a point-per-game player for the Devils. So you look at this team, and you look at how the offense is played. I didn't mention him, but Luke Hughes is also starting to turn into that number one defenseman. I had to get him in there. But you look at players getting hot at the right time. That's what happens, that needs to happen for New Jersey to go here and be a threat in the playoffs. When you have players out, when you have a struggle of a second half of a season, you get hot at the right time, you can be a threat in the playoffs. 95 points is the number for the Devils. Let me know what you guys think about the schedule remaining. Let me know what you think of first round matchup, because we're getting a little bit closer. Go ahead, let me know in the comments, and hopefully you guys hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys real soon.